My name is Artem, and I have never been interested in mysticism, until I received a letter with no return address. The envelope was old, yellowed, as if it was at least half a century old. Inside was a map and a short note. Find the village of Chernalysai. It remembers you. The map was hand-drawn, a dense forest, a crooked path, an old mill by the river. In place of the village, a cross. I did not know such a place, and it was not on the internet. But curiosity was stronger. A week later, I packed my backpack, charged the cameras, and headed toward the nearest settlement to that place. I had to walk the last part of the way. The navigator turned off, and the compass started spinning for no reason. With every 100 meters, the forest thickened, as if the air was getting heavier. And there, a clearing. Empty. But I blinked, and I saw houses. A week later, I packed my backpack, charged the cameras, and headed toward the nearest settlement to that place. I had to walk the last part of the way. The navigator turned off, and the compass started spinning for no reason. With every 100 meters, the forest thickened, as if the air was getting heavier. And there, a clearing. Empty. But I blinked, and I saw houses. An old, slanted street. Houses made of gray, darkened wood. Not a single sign of life, except for smoke rising in a thin stream from one chimney. I walked along the path. The air was damp, saturated with the smell of moss and something rotten. It felt like I was not in another place, but in another time. And in this time, someone was waiting for me. The first person I met was an old man with a face like crumpled paper. He stood by the well and looked straight at me, without saying a word. As I approached, he suddenly whispered, "You're back." I froze. "Sorry, this is my first time here." He shook his head slowly and disappeared around the corner, leaving behind only the smell of smoke and dampness. I decided to stay the night. In one of the houses, old but clean inside, I found a bed, a lamp, and even some food. As if someone had already prepared it for me. All night long I dreamed of faces. Faces that I didn't know, but they knew me. They whispered something, and every whisper seemed familiar. I froze. "Sorry, this is my first time here." He shook his head slowly and disappeared around the corner, leaving behind only the smell of smoke and dampness. I decided to stay the night. In one of the houses, old but clean inside, I found a bed, a lamp, and even some food. As if someone had already prepared it for me. All night long I dreamed of faces. Faces that I didn't know, but they knew me. They whispered something, and every whisper seemed familiar. The morning came, gray and damp. The sun did not break through the clouds. I went outside. The village looked even more abandoned than yesterday. I decided to talk to the residents. There were few of them, silent, with empty eyes. They almost did not answer, only looked, as if remembering. I asked one woman, Marfa, "What is this place?" She only said quietly, "We are the forgotten, and now you are one of us." I wanted to leave, but the path I came along disappeared. In its place there was only dense thicket. The forest closed and I tried to break through the thicket, but it seemed to come alive. Branches scratched my skin, roots got tangled under my feet. After an hour of wandering, I found myself back at the village. One of the houses looked different now, freshly painted, as if it had just been built. And I knew for sure, it wasn't there yesterday. In the evening, I found an old diary under the floorboard of my house. On the cover are the initials, AL. The first entries were about life in the village 100 years ago. The last ones are in my name. They come at night. I try to remember why I am here, but the thoughts disappear. I lose myself. I was shaking. I did not write these lines, but the handwriting was mine. I did not sleep at night. Silhouettes flashed in the window. Footsteps were heard on the roof. At 4 in the morning, the door began to creak slowly, opening. But no one was there. I met a boy. He was pale and silent. He led me to an abandoned church outside the village. There were candles inside, although no one lit them. On the walls were drawings of people without faces. "They live here," he said. "And now you do too." In the corner of the church, I noticed an old tapestry. It depicted the same village, only in flames. Above the flames, shadows hovered, like people, but without faces. I pulled the tapestry aside and found a niche in the wall. There was a box there. Inside was a pendant, exactly like my mother's. I recognized it. It was hers. She always wore it, until she disappeared 20 years ago in that very forest. Now I knew. The Black Forest did not take everyone at once. It chose. I started remembering. How we used to come here in the summer. How I got lost in the forest one day. How they found me, not quite as I was. Something about this place changed people, made them different. I decided to run. I burned the diary. I took only the photo, but the village wouldn't let me go. I walked and walked, but still came back to the same house. Marfa stood at the entrance. You're part of it now. Chernalisai lives as long as we remember. You're part of it now. Chernalisai lives as long as we remember. I started a fire. I wanted to burn everything. The houses went up in flames like dry grass. But the people didn't scream. They just stood there and watched their world disappear. And then I realized I had only woken him up. The fire opened a passage. Through the ashes, I saw a gap between the trees. I ran without looking back. The village was burning behind me, but I only heard a whisper. You will return. Everyone returns. I walked out to the road. The real one. A car drove by. I was saved, but the photo in my pocket had changed. There were only trees, and one silhouette. My father, but he died in 2001. I came home, lived as usual, almost forgot. Almost. But every time I close my eyes, I hear footsteps. When I wake up, there are traces of dirt by the bed. And at night, old letters appear in the desk drawer. Last letter. The time has come. Blackwood needs you. I feel it calling, like the pulse of the village matches mine. I fight, but every day I grow weaker. If you're reading this, don't look for Blackwood. It will find you. You'll think this is just a story, but one day you'll get a letter with no return address. And then remember, some villages don't disappear. They just wait.